Welcome to week 2 of the class. In this week, we'll be talking all about noise and randomness and how we can use both of these inside Houdini. So first, let's talk about what the differences are, because occasionally they get confused and mixed up with each other, and I want to make sure we have a pretty clear understanding of what the difference is and when we want to use one versus the other. So first, when we talk about randomness, what we're talking about is something that is purely chaotic. That means for each sample that we take, we're going to get a completely unique value for that. There doesn't seem to be any sort of pattern or scale or orientation to it. It just looks like static or noise, but not the kind of noise that we'll be talking about here. I just mean kind of like signal noise, like what you'd see if you turned on the television and there was nothing there. It's that kind of just static when you think of randomness. Now, when we're talking about noise, it has an important difference. One is that it actually has some kind of a visual cohesion to it. We do see patterns and structures, and noises in general are meant to find some kind of procedural way to imitate what nature does. If we look at how mountains work or waves, a lot of those things can be replicated just with procedural noise patterns. So it has scale, it has orientation, it has warping abilities, things that we can do, but the main point is that it has a visual coherence to it. So the question would be, when do we want to use one versus the other? And what I like to do always is ask myself what the purpose is and what the context is that we're trying to achieve. What is the context that the variation we want is? So think about that, and then think about what's going to be visually pleasing. So if you want to do something that is like landscape, you would want to be using noise instead of randomness. However, sometimes you just want to add variation, like in a particle system. You just want to randomly decide 20% of the particles are smaller and 30% are larger, and stuff like that, or just add some very, very subtle variation in there where you don't need to see any sort of patterns or any kind of stuff like that emerging. And I use that as a pretty good baseline to choose one versus the other.